for a lack of a better word, we're seeking freedom through finances, and we end up in a prison. King Solomon, guy came after David. He was the son of David. This guy asked for wisdom, and he was just, loaded. He had palaces, he had gold, he had everything. And even as uncomfortable as it is for me to say this, lots and lots of women. All right? This guy had whatever he wanted. King Solomon he lived lavishly. He lived lavishly. And there was nothing that he had need for, nothing he ever wanted for, nothing he ever, that his wealth would ever not gain him. But in his own words, in Ecclesiastes 5:10, he says, those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. Or in the Message translation, it says, the one who loves money is never satisfied with money, nor the one who loves wealth with big profits. People that pursue and chase after those things find themselves really, really just dissatisfied with life. You ever met somebody who has a lot and they're miserable, and then met somebody who has what our culture would consider nothing, and you're like, man, you're so happy and you're so broke. How can that be? Are these things really better than what we already have? We are more lavish than many of us have the ability to fathom. Not just those out there, it's also us in here. And culture has successfully educated, coached, and even indoctrinated us with dissatisfaction. It's the great deception. There is something always better than what I currently have. It's the bait that leads us to slavery. Every time. It's like, I want. Now, I'm speaking from a place, and I'm just being honest with you guys, I'm speaking from a place of understanding here, okay? Like, I love Amazon Prime too much. For those of you guys who know what that is, okay? And a lot of times things will come, and my wife will look at me and say, thank God it was Prime because we can send it back for free. Because, for whatever reason, I don't sleep at night. And what do you do when you don't sleep at night? I Prime. And so I need this. No, I don't need this. This is great. No, this is not great. And then you're in a half-sleep stupor and click the checkout. I can make excuses all I want. And then next thing you know, the box is being delivered. So, you've got to realize that if we're not cautious, if we're not careful, that this life that we live, the lavish blessings of God are easily forgotten when we look at other things thinking that we need better. Right? Like, you ever heard a statement like, if the grass looks greener on the other side, water your lawn? All right? Now, here's some statistics for you, okay? In 2015, an American household debt study was configured, and this is personal and combined, okay? Credit card debts in a U.S. home, on average, reached $15,675, but across the U.S., that added up to $729 billion. Mortgages, all right, on average, mortgages, $172,341 per family. And over the U.S. combined, $8.36 trillion. Auto loans, on average in the home, 27,865. U.S. combined, 1.1 trillion. Student loans, oh man, $48,599 for the people that carried student loans. U.S. combined $1.26 trillion. This is going to come as a little bit of an ouch moment, but we are a bloated, gluttonous people. We live in a land that is lavish. We live in a setting where God has blessed so much of what we have, and it is crazy how blind we are to see what's right in front of us.
That's true.
We look in our closets and say we have nothing to wear. We open our fridges and say, I've got nothing to eat. Okay? Well, some of you can't. That's true. Poor isn't always poor. Some of us are spoiled. Some of us are. This has got to be a kingdom. And I want to talk to you about a kingdom principle. This is another world reality. And so I want to make 3 basic points to you guys this morning. Number 1, the 10% truth. It's time that we live again by this basic principle. God outlines it very clearly. It's a very clear directive. The tithes are a place where consumerism's power is broken. Trusting God requires faith, especially when I am choosing to release what I have worked hard to gain to the church. Malachi 3:10. It's correcting an issue, and Malachi says in verse 10, he says, bring all the tithes into the storehouse so there will be enough food in my temple. If you do, says the Lord of the armies, the Lord of heaven, I will open the windows of heaven for you. That is amazing. I will pour out a blessing so great you won't have enough room to take it in. Try it.
Yes.
Put me to the test. In the message it says, bring your full tithe to the temple treasury so there will be ample provisions for the temple. Test me in this and see if I don't open up heaven itself to you and pour out blessings beyond your wildest dreams. It's up to us. A 10% principle. It's in the Bible. Some of us are like, great, it's talking about money again. But seriously, you want to be blessed, you want to follow this truth. You just do.
Yes.
I'm serious. 10% feels like a lot, especially if it's not something that you've done. But 10% is a place where promise begins. It's a place where what we have is invested. We see a vacancy, guys. Listen to this real quick. We see a 10% vacancy in what we're making. And God sees a 10% opening to flood us with blessing. You realize that the 10% is a gap that you've made in your income. But can you imagine a God who says, give that 10% to me, make that gap in what you make, open a hole right there, 10%. Just open it up, and I'm going to flood it. I'm going to flood the space that you just opened up with blessings. I talked to a man earlier this week that gave what he could, his last dollars. I think it was the next day or the day after, there was like a delivery of things that this person needed so badly. Help me out, Kelly. Was it the next day? Yeah, it was Monday.
Well, he showed up Sunday night to our house, and
yes.
I wasn't able to get him to the person the next day, but yeah.
Someone came. Am I breaking in and out? Well, that's a bummer.
Sure.
How do we feel like super? It's like I'm a mic. No, so this person sowed their last bit, okay? So they sowed their last bit of what they had. They gave what they had to bless what God was doing here. And then that evening, someone shows up at my house and and says, here's a bag of stuff. I don't know why, but I just feel like I got to give you this bag of stuff for this individual. And just like that, what was considered something that we hold so tightly onto our money. We get so scared sometimes, and we give. But we see the 10%, but we forget, as Malachi defines there, we see the 10%, but he says right there, he says, I will pour out my blessings. I will open up heaven. And then he says this. I love this part, and I'm trying to get this off. Okay, I love this part. This is what he says in the Bible. This is God. He's like, try it. I mean, that's like, we should be sitting back like, challenge accepted. Challenge accepted, God. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to place my trust in you. I realize what I have, and I realize what I have is small. 10%, okay? It's simple math, all right? It's simple math. You got $1? Give a dime, all right? Don't feel like bad or negligent if all you got is $1, okay? Don't be afraid, because God promises that your faithfulness will be rewarded. And we're not faithful just because we want the reward. God is just saying to us, look, if you do this, man, I'm gonna knock your socks off. And someone told me a couple weeks ago that I said a similar statement, and they said, well, God didn't knock my socks off, but my sandals, he did. But the church itself, to discover wealth as a gift, not of God, and to do something with it. We've got to discover our wealth as a gift, not a God. It begins with obedience, an act of trust. And 10% can feel like a struggle, but it breaks money's control and transforms it into a gift. Creating a 10% void is not just about giving something up. He sees an opening to pour more in. I still remember, this dude knocks on our door. This is the privilege of living behind a church. I mean, it is amazing. This house is beautiful. And sometimes people come to the church and they'll knock on the door and there's nobody there. So they're like, oh, there's a house behind. That must be the pastor's house. So I'll go knock on the pastor's house. This is credible proof because my in-law is here and she can bear witness to me, okay, because she was there that day. All right, this person knocks on the door and they're like, I need gas money. I don't have any. And I'm like, okay, I got $10 in my wallet. Here's $10. That's all I got. That's all I can give you right now. Okay? I promise you all. It's dark. Someone knocks on the door. And there's a person standing there. And they're like, I don't know why. I was driving by your house. Just felt like God told me to do this. And hands me something that felt like paper. And then just... And I'm like, wait, where are you going? And they were gone. They were, got in their car and drove away. And I walk back in the house and I look, and it's $100. Oh, yeah. It's like, what? Yeah. I'm trying to remember what you said there. You guys are weird or crazy or something like that. It was something like that. But anyway, put me to the test is what God says. But this next one is a step farther. And I want to ask you this. But can we be the people who are more than the minimum? And this is just something that I want to ask you with some honesty. Many of us are desensitized to society and so overwhelmed by it that we that so many negligently seek an uninformed life. We've seen so much that we begin to see nothing. There's a culture out there, even in the place that we live, our hometown, wherever that is, that's screaming for help and we don't even hear them. There's programs that we can invest in to help those who have need. There's opportunities that we as a church can do something about what's going on. And so this morning, I'm not trying to put the heat on you. I'm not trying to put the pressure on you. Just understand my heart here, okay? 10%, yes, trust God. Put it to the test. And when you get to that place where you're just trusting God, God with a 10%, and you're like, yes, God, yes. And he's just like blessing you, and he's giving you more, and he's opening up heaven, and you're just like, whoa, I don't have enough to hold this all. I don't know what to do with this all. I don't know how to control this. Oh my goodness, God is just so good. You don't just hoard more, you give more. You give more. You just do. When Jesus walked the earth, his eyes were always open. They were always looking for a need. If he passed someone who was sick, he healed them. If he passed someone who was hungry, he fed them. If he saw someone who was in bondage, he set them free. Nothing escaped his sight then. Nothing escapes it today. Why be the person who just does enough? Why not be the person who does more? Right? Acts 2:35, it's more blessed to give than it is to receive. Proverbs 11:24 and 25, it says, give freely and become wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. Boom. You've seen it happen. All right? Bankruptcy is awful. Be stingy and lose everything. Verse 25, the generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. You ever been there before? I was at McDonald's the other day. This is not about me, just about the example and experience. I was at McDonald's the other day. My wife and I were getting a breakfast sandwich, and this sweet lady that I see every once in a while, crass as all get out, just walks up to me and says something. I feel like she knows I'm a pastor, so she's trying to get me, trying to surprise me with some of her verbiage. And so I was like, no, go ahead in front of me, okay? So she orders, and then I just kind of like politely walk in and just bump her shoulder and say, I got this. And she just looked at me like, what? And then she said another word that I'm not going to say because we're in church. And it just like, it blessed her. It just blessed her, just encouraged her, I'm telling you, just that moment of generosity, that experience, a simple moment. It was I think it was maybe $2 or $3 or something like that. And I was floating on the clouds the rest of the morning, feeling so wonderful because what seemed like an insignificant detail, so little, became such a great blessing for someone else. I can't count the amount of times where my wife and I have been in places where we have been in a struggle with our finances and we trusted God, and he just blew our minds. I mean, coming home and groceries being on our doorstep. Literally. And the people who put them there had to be butchered because the food was still cold. I mean, it was just drop and run. Seriously, it had to be, because I'm like, how is this still cold, And they were nice and considerate because they even there was ice cream, right? I'm like, hello, come on now. So, what am I telling you? Yes, a generous mindset is a scarcity. And there's two reasons that I can gather. Maybe there's more that people hoard. It's either out of greed or fear. But when you decide to release and to fund God's work, we realize that the universe is more than abundant. Our God has filled it. When we begin to get in touch with God is enough, and that he gives me more than I need for a reason, it becomes a natural outflowing, not in excess. There's no excess, there's no waste, there's no tight-fisting, no miser. Our eyes are unlocked, our fears are loosed. We begin to live out of the obvious outflow of a blessed life. We just do. We just do.
Amen.
The church, the hope. I heard a pastor say, I'm trying to remember his name, the church is the hope of the world. We are the beacon. We're shining bright. And we have a place where people can come. And I don't want it just to be a place where they just experience some pretty amazing music and some bald-bearded guy screaming at them on Sundays, okay? I want this church to become a place where people find refuge.
Amen.
And people find comfort. And people find support and strength. Where people come and say, I'm without. And we look into our accounts and say, hey, this is no problem. We can cover that. We got that. I want to be a church that, and I know that you guys too, I want to be a church that is benevolent, that is loving, compassionate. See, our lifestyle cannot be me-centric. Truly living is kingdom of God-centric. One that leads to misery and emptiness is me-centric. The other leads to jubilation, to triumph and delight. You know how we understand generosity? Not because of pastors telling you certain Bible verses or yelling at you. You feel like, oh no, he's trying to squeeze me for more pennies. Okay, again, this is hard work sometimes, guys. But we live out of the outflow of Jesus Christ, who is the greatest example of generosity. The perfect example of generosity. Believe it or not, Jesus himself talked much about money. 60 of the 38 parables were concerned with how to handle money and possessions. And the Gospels, an amazing 1 out of 10 verses, 288 in all, deal directly with the subject of money. The Bible itself offers 500 verses on prayer, less than 500 verses on faith, but more than 2,000 verses on money and possessions. All right? The Bible isn't like, I want your money. The Bible's like, money's a serious issue. It is. But just maybe our acts of generosity are some of the most natural outward expressions of an inner attitude. See, our compassion, our love, because of what Christ has done for us. You see, when we are generous people, it is Christ on display. Not ourselves, but Christ on display. Our greatest example, our greatest illustration of what it means to be extravagantly generous, to offer what we have open-handed. He himself was a gift of all gifts. Flawless love refused to withhold. Flawless love refused to withhold. We were talking about this morning when we were taking communion. Jesus, his gift, was himself. It was himself. He gave himself. And as followers of Jesus, we were children of God. And we should manifest the family likeness by doing good to all, even those who deserve the opposite. Ephesians 5, 1 and 2 says, imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. Because why? He loved us and offered himself as a sacrifice for us. A pleasing aroma to God. Our gifts are an outflow of the gospel, not because of guilt or greed. And that's, if you leave with anything this morning, if you walk out of this place with anything this morning, you can forget everything I said prior to that. Yeah, 10% is important. You have to be generous. But our gifts should not be out of guilt or duty. They should be out of the outflow of the gift that he gave us. How can I even define with words his endowment? Timothy Keller, some of you guys know who that is. He's a modern-day pastor and scholar. He says, to the degree you understand the grace or the gospel of grace, you will live a radically generous life. If you truly have a spiritual inheritance, you are going to be promiscuously generous with your earthly inheritance. Some strong words. So what if? What would happen? What would happen as a church? What could we become as a beacon of light? What could Lancaster Assembly be if we were a people of generous faith and generous love and generous compassion. And what would happen? What would happen? All right, start with the 10%, but what would happen if we became people that truly delighted in giving? I don't want it to feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but like seriously, give, trust God, be confident in God, follow what He says, and I'm telling you, put it to the test. Test Him. Just test Him. And be confident that He's going to do something in your life that is so amazing. I know that because I'm living proof of that. I've told you guys this story before, and I'll tell it over and over and over again. My wife and I are sitting in a church service, and I say, okay, babe, we don't have much to give. Look at my wallet. I'm like, okay, this is what we got. Like $3. She grabs a hold of the money, I grab a hold of the money, and she looks at me straight in the face. She's like, you need to pray for 10 grand. And I laughed at her. I laughed at her. And God was going to punch me in the face in a minute. I said, okay, just pray for $10,000. You know, in my mind, thinking, this is ludicrous. This is crazy. You guys have heard this before, but like, that was on a Sunday. It wasn't even Saturday. Go out to my mailbox and open my mailbox. I'm like, this is kind of weird. What this from? Opened up. It wasn't from the government or anything like that. It wasn't from like some company who was trying to steal my money or anything like that. And so I open up this envelope and I pull it out and I'm like, oh my gosh. It was literally $10,000.
Amen.
We had a great need. We were sinking fast because of the situation that we were in, and God immediately responded because of faithfulness. Okay. Last thoughts here. You guys, I already read Ephesians 5:1-2. You guys want to look at your bulletin. Just what impacted you the most about today's message? Just think about it for a second, okay? Take this home, dwell on it, put it on your fridge, just consider it, think about it. What impacted you most about today's message? It could be that pastor is begging me for money again, okay? It could be. At least you're being honest. What impacted you most about today's message? And second, how will you choose to follow the example of Jesus and living out these truths? All right? Jesus was the gift. He gave himself. Is there any amount that's too much? No. There's not. There's not. I want to encourage you, guys. When we trust God, He is faithful. He really is. He really is. Jesus, I thank you for this morning. I thank you for this reality. God, I know that there are some people in our world, in our country, there might even be some people in this room that are just plain skeptical. Like, I haven't been to church in a while, or here's this pastor, and now he's asking me to give money. There's some people in this room that don't have much. God, I pray right now that as they consider the 10%, as they consider to be faithful, not in overabundance that's going to cause them to go under or to lose their home or something like that, or lose things that are precious to them, but that as they place their confidence in that 10%, God, if they have $1, they would trust you with $1. And God, that as they trust you with that you would show them, that you would reveal to them that it's not about the quantity. God, that you're just asking for obedience, and you ask us to test you, and that you're going to surprise us, you're going to bless us, you're going to encourage us, you're going to do incredible things. So, Father, today, as these truths sink in, I pray that we would leave with a new kingdom reality. that generosity, not that we're seeking reward, but generosity is rewarded. And it should be an outward expression because your Son, God, you did not even withhold your beloved Son. The greatest act, the greatest generous act, that we now have life, that we are now your children, that we are now family, because your Son set us free. May we live as an outflow of that. May we live as a part of that kind of thing. And I thank you, God, for the already examples that I've seen that exist in this church. It's been so incredible to watch as people do amazing things right here, because I know, God, you've done incredible things among these people. In Christ's name we pray.